It's the Last Stand Podcast. And here's your host, Brian Custer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Last Stand, the unfiltered, straight talk from some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment. I am Brian Custer, and our guest today comes from the sport of boxing, and he is quite simply one of the best. He was a gold medalist at the Olympics, won world titles in 5 different weight divisions. He was the lineal champ in 3 different weight divisions. He was once the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. Quite simply, one of the greats. He's Sugar Ray Leonard. Ray, welcome to The Last Stand.
Hey, man, how you doing, Brian? Always.
Good to have you on. And listen, first of all, what has life been like for Ray Leonard during a pandemic, during a shutdown? What has life been like for you?
It has been something I've never could even fathom I would deal with. It's quarantine. It's locked down. It's like so much we've taken for granted, you know, like being outside, our freedom and being safe, just going to the movies or just having dinner somewhere. All those things somewhat are not there anymore.
Yeah, and I even read that some of the things you had to do over Zoom, like we're doing here. Like even you said AA meetings, you would do over Zoom, correct?
Yeah, in fact, I was apprehensive. I was like, I can't do that because I don't really know these people. But I tell you what, it's been a blessing in disguise, man, because I've done my AA meetings through Zoom and people all over the world. That's the thing about it. Whereas that I'm used to having just my friends or people that I know. This is people all over the world who has a problem.
You know, when you look at what's going on today, there's obviously a lot of social injustice and things of that nature going on. But, you know, a lot of athletes have been proactive. We've seen it in the NBA. We've seen it in the NFL, and even some of the boxers that have different messages on their trunks. What about Ray Leonard? If you were fighting today, would you see Ray Leonard using your platform to push forward, let's say, the Black Lives Matter movement?
I'll be there. I would, no question about that, Brian. I would be there and use whatever I have as a platform to get the word out globally. No question about that. I mean, what I've seen and what I've witnessed has been horrible. And especially, it's like people hate you and they want to kill you. It's like a movie. It's like this horror movie.
You know, in your day, Ray, and especially when it comes to the sport of boxing, guys fought each other. I mean, that's why they call you guys the 4 Kings, and I'm talking about you and Hearns, Hagler, Duran. You know, you can even throw in Benitez, Arguello. All of you guys fought today. Today, fighters, let's say, are more strategic when it comes to picking their opponents. Obviously, there's promotional agreements now. What do you think about the fighters today compared to the fighters in your day?
They're making more money. No, they are. No, but it's all relative. There's so much talent out there. There's so much talent in that ring. And they take it from a different perspective now because they do what's best for them. I have no problems with that. I have no problems because eventually you got to fight the champ. In other words, when you fight someone who is just as good as you are or who's been around, who's been a champion, the fans love that. In fact, I go back like with Hagler, with Tommy Hearns, who I just spoke to a couple of days ago, and he's talking about fighting me again. No, I'm serious. He said, Ray, I beat you once, you beat me once. There needs to be a tiebreaker. I said, Tommy, have you looked at your driver's license and see how? Yeah.
Well, look, it hasn't stopped Mike Tyson and Roy Jones.
And that fight there has everything. I mean, it's a suspense. It's like anticipation of it. Yeah, I mean, but getting back to Tommy Hearns, I love Tommy. Tommy's my friend. But boxing, there's so much talent out there. I just tell you, there's so much talent.
But guys always, and even they come to me about this. They say, I wish the fighters today were like the fighters then when all the guys fought each other. Now it's like, well, I don't know if I can fight you because you're under this promotional company and I'm on this side of the street. Maybe we can, but I don't know. And fans hate that. And I guess if you were, let's say, if you were fighting in this day, would you still be that kind of fighter who says, forget about the promotional company. I want to fight the best. Give me this opponent and put the promotional stuff aside.
That's who I was. I mean, as a fighter, I want to fight the very best out there. And I was able to do that. It's that mindset. And again, I keep saying there's so much talent out there. I mean, you talk about Floyd Mayweather Jr. I mean, gifted. I mean, it goes down the line of how many fighters are out there. But the fans can demand that. They can demand that.
In your prime, let's be honest. I mean, boxing was probably the top sport out there. It wasn't the NFL. It wasn't the NBA. It was really boxing that was out there. And you were at one point the most popular guy on the planet besides Muhammad Ali. What was that like for you? What was that like for Sugar Ray Leonard?
I'm glad you asked that question, Brian, because first of all, it was incredible because I was just coming from the Olympics back in 1976. And then all of a sudden now, I'm fighting and I'm known, the fame comes and the money comes into play. All these things coming from someone who grew up poor, grew up extremely humble. But boxing helped me out as far as kept me away from from drugs and alcohol, excessive amount. And then fighting the best, man. Then all of a sudden now you have boxing fans from all over the world, the globe, who say, "Hey, I love you, man, and tough fight with Tommy Hearns, but you did it, man." And, the fight with Hagler was so incredible, although I gave Hagler the nod. All those things, that's what makes me tick. And like if I was fighting without with fan support or audience, that would be extremely difficult because I fed off that. I fed off the people or the fans. You with me?
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, you were so popular. I think all of our moms loved Sugar Ray Leonard. Everybody loved Sugar Ray Leonard. We as kids wanted to be Sugar Ray Leonard. You had all of the endorsements. You had all of that. What do you think life would have been like for you? Looking back on how it was then, what would it have been like for you if you had social media back in those days?
I'll be in a different tax bracket. Brian, let me think about that.
And your tax bracket was already big because you were making 10 million. I mean, you were making big loot back then.
No, it'd have been totally different. And but I'm happy. I'm sad. No, I'm happy as hell. I'm a blessed man. I've been a fighter for almost 50 years, man. And to have come out of the ring somewhat unscathed is really a blessing, and without question.
And what does it make you feel like when people say you are one of the greatest of all time? What is that like?
It's humbling. It's a nice thing to hear. It's funny you mentioned that because like as I travel now, well not now, but when I was traveling, I'll be on the plane and people say, "Sugar Ray, yeah, man, yeah, Dance with the Stars, right?" yeah. They saw me on Dance with the Stars.
Listen, the generation's different. Yeah, they're different. Let's talk about your career, and specifically, I want to know from Sugar Ray Leonard, what fights do you think defined your career, and what fights made you great?
That's easy to calculate because I look at the fact that when I fought Wilfred Benitez, who was champion at 17, the most gifted fighter I've ever, one of the most gifted fighters I've ever faced. I never missed so many punches in my life, in my career. In fact, I went after the fight that I won. I went to the hospital for dehydration because I beat him with more heart than anything. The Duran fight, my first professional loss. I never experienced anyone that hit me that hard. I'm serious. At that time. They call Duran Manos de Piedras, hands of stone. Brian, he punches so hard, I swear. And I talk about this all the time. He hit me so many times, so many places. And I looked around and said, who else is in this damn ring? He threw that many punches. He was perpetual motion. Tommy Hearns, a monster, no question about that. I mean, Tommy's 6'2", arms longer than a football field. I mean, Tommy was the man. And he brought so much out of me. He made me reach down to that hidden reservoir of strength that we all have, but we all can't activate. Jesus Christ, man. Hagler, I mean, all those fights. Even Donnie Lalonde. And he wasn't a household name globally, but he was a big guy, big punch. And I remember that fight like it was yesterday, man. Because he had me out a couple of times. But I came back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Out of all of those fights, what was the one fight that you were most proud of, where even Sugar Ray, when he laid down to bed at night, said, you know what, I'm great, because this was quite an accomplishment?
You know, there can't be one, Brian. It can't be one, because it was like when I got knocked down by Donnie Lalonde, when I got knocked down by Tommy Hearns in our second fight, when I fought Hagler after a 5-year hiatus. You know, I was an actor for 5 years, and the world, and I mean this, the world thought that I would get knocked out, and rightfully so, because at that time when I was retired back in '82, I was self-destructive, drinking, cocaine, hanging out, and a lot of my friends, sports guys and all my friends, they kind of kept an eye on me to a degree. I mean, man, I'm blessed. I keep saying that, and because I mean that. I'm so blessed talking to you, and God, man, it was my career, and that's why I'm looking forward to doing my life story, because it's more than just boxing. It's life. Living your life as being a fighter. If you get knocked down, you go the distance. You got all the things that are required to be a world champion are applicable in everyday life. Like now with the pandemic, we gotta be fighters.
And when will we see Sugar Ray Leonard's life on the big screen?
It's preliminary now. I'm working hard on that, and I can't wait, man. I really can't wait to put it all together. But I want to do it not in a movie theater, but more on a series like Netflix, you know, something like that.
Very nice. All right, so let's go through some of those fights, as you talked about, that define who Sugar Ray Leonard is. So as you pointed out, just 5 months after suffering your first defeat, you get that immediate rematch with Roberto Duran, and we all know about that fight in New Orleans back in 1980, the 8th round, where apparently he said no mas, and that was it. Tell us something about that fight that we don't know.
That I knew that I could win. I knew that what happened in the first fight Roberto Duran taught me the power of the mind, of composure. He said things that will make me angry, and which was, he put his finger up, gave me the finger, the hand gestures, and all these things. And I mean, on the streets, people do that, but not in the ring. I mean, he did those things that upset me, made me so angry, Brian, made me so mad that I said, you know what? I'm going to beat him at his own game. I'm going to stand toe-to-toe with this guy. For some reason, that locked in my head to fight Duran toe-to-toe because I figured that, I looked at him as being a bully. And I said, I got to beat him. Was I nervous? Absolutely. Was I scared? I would say yes. Did I believe I could win? Yes. Mm. I used what I had: my hand speed, my foot speed. I had people laugh at him because I did my thing back in the day. I stuck my chin out, and I was embarrassing him. So that's exactly what took place.
So then we go a year later, Ray, and then you get Thomas Hearns. And I'll admit, even as a child, I vividly remember watching this fight, man. And it was like, for me, that was where I really, besides obviously Ali, where I fell in love with the sport, because I remember that 12th round. I remember Angelo Dundee telling you in the corner, "You're blowing it, son. You're blowing it." And then you get the knockdown in the 13th round. And then in the 14th, you get the stoppage. I remember how big your eye looked in on the left side. Again, give me something about that fight that we don't know.
You know, when I became friends with Muhammad Ali, who was my idol, my inspiration, and we've had incredible talks together. And he said one day to me, he said, "You know, Ray, when I fought Joe Frazier the third time, it was the closest thing to death." I was like, "To death?" I didn't know what he was talking about. And when I fought Tommy Hearns, it was the closest thing to death, like he said. And when I came back to sit on my seat in the corner, when Angelo Dundee said, "You're blowing it, son, you're blowing it," that was the perfect soundbite. He said the right thing at the right time without getting crazy. Because if a trainer gets crazy, the fighter gets crazy. If the trainer shows his concern, we show our concern. But Angelo just carefully said, "You're blowing it, son. You're blowing it," but he said it with such authority. And I knew I had. And we know as a fighter knows when he's losing. We know that. So we have to turn it up or turn it on. That's something that's needed. And I remember that so well, man. So well.
And at that point, did you believe in your mind you were losing that fight?
Oh, I knew I was behind. I knew, or I thought it was too close for comfort. I just gave it all I had. And that's all I can do. I gave it all that I had. I left it all on the table. In the ring.
And do you believe, Ray, that fight was the beginning of where you started to have the detached retina because of the swelling that you had on that left eye?
I can't just pinpoint that particular fight, but there was an accumulation of blows, and not always from boxing. It was like, get poked in the eye, playing basketball, whatever. Those were just repeated things. And what my optometrist said, he said, "Ray, eventually it goes, it detaches. That's what happens." And but that was a wake-up call for me to understand that it's like everything comes to an end. But thank God I was okay. I had a great doctor.
So then we go to, let's say, 6 years later, 5 years so later, April 6th, 87, the super fight with Marvin Haglin. Controversial split decision.
Controversial, yeah.
Now, Ray, everybody who watches that fight now says Marvin Hagler won that fight.
Okay.
Before I get your opinion, give us something about that fight we don't know.
I trained my body for over a year and a half to prepare mentally, spiritually, physically for that fight. But then again, those things are they factors? Yes, they are. Are they guaranteed? Absolutely not. Because once you get into that ring, into those four squares, into facing that guy across the ring from you who's going to tear your head off, it doesn't always come. It doesn't always happen. It always and fighters know. We know when we have our stuff. So when that bell rang with Hagler, the first bell rang, I went out there and was I scared? Absolutely. I won't deny that. But I threw a punch and it landed. I said, it still works. It still works. Because it seems so simple and comical. It is the truth. And it's real. It's real. That's reality.
And was that always the game plan? Like it seemed like for the last 30 seconds of the round, hey, let me get a flurry and leave that impression with the judges.
Okay, yeah. I was going to fight Hagler toe-to-toe because I saw him when he fought. He fought John the Beast Mugabe. And I was sitting ringside and I watched that fight and I said, oh my God. So I called my partner back in Maryland after the fight. I said, Mike, I can beat Hagler. He said, Ray, you been drinking? I said, yeah, let's make a difference. He said, son, let's talk when we get home. Because I saw something in him, like we can see each other. You know, I just felt that at that time, precise time, I could beat Hagler using my game plan. The mind. I never told, like at press conferences with Hagler, you know, with Tommy and Duran and other fighters, they always, oh man, so you punky this, and that gives them more just aggression. And I will say, hey, you know what, Hagler, you know, he's a great boxer, but he's a better boxer. You guys give him credit for. You know, he's a better boxer. He's not just a slugger. You guys think he can only do this. He can do that too. And then after the press conferences were over, probably about 30 press conferences, the tour, Hagler, the last thing he said, I may surprise all of you. I may outbox Ray. I said, I got him. I swear, true story. True story. I got him.
Wow.
Check this out, man. When the bell rung, he came out, instead of doing something, he came out left-handed. And which gave me a little chance, a minute or so, to kind of get acclimated. Because being out of the ring for 5 years, it takes its toll. And now it became natural.
Interesting. So you mentioned, you talked about the drugs, you talked about the alcohol. When specifically, though, Ray, did you think the addiction for you started? At what point in your life did this happen, and why?
I know exactly when. I think my last fight was like 82. When I was diagnosed with a partial detached retina. I mean, I didn't know. I didn't even know what the detached retina was. He said, Ray, son, you have detached retina. I said, oh, okay. I didn't know what he was talking about. He said, we want to have surgery next week. I said, can I wait? And he said, no. He said, because if you wait any more than 5 days or so, you're going to go blind in the eye. So it was my wife back then who said, no, you go tomorrow. And that's what happened.
Wow.
It was scary because I didn't know the seriousness of a detached retina. I didn't know what he was talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how serious do you think your problem was? At what point did you say, oh man,
no,
this is getting bad?
No.
I'm talking about the alcohol and the drugs.
Oh, the alcohol. I mean, I got home about a few days later. I just cried like a baby, man. Because I mean, I was in my 20s, man, and my career was over. Because I mean, people say, well, man, you got the chick, you got this, you got the money, you got this. It wasn't at that point in my life. It wasn't about that. It was about me, my career. It was about my legacy. So I remember there was some friends who had cocaine and said, Ray, take a hit, you'll forget everything. And the first time I did that, I was hooked. I was hooked.
Wow.
Cocaine. The drinking, I drank. I didn't drink to socialize, or I drank to numb myself. I was a lost soul. As much as I had accumulated or accomplished, I had the lowest self-esteem because I wasn't finished my job. Put it that way.
Mm. And I've always wondered this about you, Ray. As smooth as you are and were then and are today, how does a guy like that get in the ring and become this? I mean, there is probably no better finisher, no better hand speed, and just animal in the ring, and yet out of the ring has this pretty smile and talks. I'm Sugar Ray Leonard. But in the ring, it's like that is not the same guy I know. How did you do that?
I don't know. It's just it's a mystery. It was when I met my lovely wife Bernadette. She said, "I can't believe you were a fighter," and because I'm so opposite outside the ring, but in that ring, it was I conquered. I fought hard. I was if I hit you and I hurt you, I'm on top of you. Just if I'm exhausted, I don't care how tired I am, I will come up with those punches. It's like the intestinal fortitude, like that dig deep. I had that.
You did. I thought it was about 9 years ago in 2011. You wrote your autobiography, The Big Fight, My Life in and Out of the Ring. You talked about, obviously, the cocaine, the alcohol. I think the shocker to everybody, and as I was reading the book in detail, was that the sexual abuse that you suffered from an Olympic coach. And I know it was like, whoa, when the book came out. Was there any fear that even putting that in the book, or was it cathartic for you to finally get that off your chest?
It was cathartic, without question. It saved my life. Because especially when I drank alcohol, a lot of alcohol, I would break down. I would cry. I would just sob and weave, and didn't tell anyone. Kept it to myself, and that was killing me. It was killing me mentally and spiritually, and I don't know. I found the strength to talk about it. In fact, I still talk about it sometimes. I do motivational speaking, and I remember I was talking. Then all of a sudden I said, and by the way, sexually abused. I said that. I just felt compelled to say that. What to deal with this issue or topic? No, but it was just I had to say it, and the place got quiet, Brian. The place got quiet, and I didn't know whether or not to run off the stage or scream or whatever. And then someone did that. Everybody did that. Because there's so many people out there who's dealing with what I've dealt with. And I felt it was my duty to talk about it, just to let people know it does happen.
Yeah. And obviously at that time you were a young teen. Did you ever later in life confront the guy or anything?
Passed away. Many years prior to the book.
Yeah. So even for your recovery, you never even got the opportunity to face this guy again, to say, hey, look, you did this to me. Either whether I forgive you or whatever, you never got that opportunity to face that guy.
I never want to give him the satisfaction of saying, I'm okay. I don't know. That's a weird thing. And people don't understand unless you have dealt with it. If that's been, if that happened to you, it's a tough thing, and it takes trust. It takes humility. It takes strength. It takes a lot of things to get it off your chest.
Yeah.
And get it, and it becomes toxic.
Mm. And how do you think that it changed you as a person?
It made me stronger. It made me feel better about myself. I mean, again, like as much as I've accomplished with that shade in my head, or that memory in my head, I was going downhill. I was really going downhill, mentally and spiritually. I was going downhill. I remember talking to my friend Johnny Gill. I used to tell Johnny that Johnny and I would go out somewhere, whether it's dinner, club, whatever, and we'd be having a few drinks. And then I'll start, because I told Johnny a lot of things, and I told him, I started crying, and then he started crying. And then I was like, I just shut up, and we just went off to another subject matter. But I have incredible friends and incredible family that has also, whether they know it or not, they've helped me in so many other ways.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, that's good stuff. So let's talk about the fight game now. When Sugar Ray Leonard watches boxing, who's his favorite fighters? Who does he say, man, I love watching this guy fight?
I mean, there's so many of the guys. I mean, going from Mayweather to with Crawford, Garcia. I mean, Joshua, Deontay Wilder. I need a book to. I watch the fights. I love when a fighter gets knocked down and gets back up. I love when a fighter was a major underdog and overcome the obstacles. I like when a guy not just talk like he's the best. He proves he's the best by fighting the best.
We're going to talk specifically about the welterweight division because we had a number of the guys on the show. Errol Spence, number one, talked about Sugar Ray Leonard, and he says as he talked about, I love Sugar Ray Leonard because he was a dog, and I feel like I'm a dog too in the ring. The welterweight division, you were the king of the welterweight division. Give me your thoughts on that welterweight division and guys like Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, you mentioned, Bud Crawford. What are your thoughts?
The thing about they had the whole package. Each one of those guys have the whole package. They can talk trash because they can back it up. At any given moment, they can put you out. They have a mixture of punchers. And I always say this, they believe in themselves, because if they don't, no one else will. I can't wait until they fight each other. That's what's going to happen. That's what, God, if you talk trash, which is good, and the only person that can really talk trash respectfully, well, not respectfully, was Ali Muhammad. He was the best, right? But it's okay if you can talk trash as long as you back it up. As long as you can back up, talk all the trash you want, because that adds to the flavor of boxing, the sweet science.
A kid who's from your neck of the woods, he's got a big fight with Leo Santa Cruz coming up, is Gervonta Tank Davis. And we had him on the show, and one of the questions to him was, if he could fight one of the greats, who would it fight? And he said, I want to fight Sugar Ray Leonard, because he said that was.
Who said that?
That's what Gervonta Tank Davis said. He said, I would have loved to have been in the ring with Sugar Ray Leonard. He said, because he was a bad mofo. And he said, I don't care who would win. I just wanted to, just for the opportunity to be in the ring with somebody like that. He's got a big fight coming up. What do you think about Tank Davis?
I like him, man. I've always liked him. He's one of my favorite guys I watch, observe, and you know what I see in him? It's like development. I see every fight it gets better and better and better. It's like what should happen with the fighter as he grows, gets better, throws his punches. His punches are more sharper and everything. He knows when to throw a punch, when not to throw a punch, how to duck. I mean, everything. He has great stock. That's
let me get you've mentioned him a couple of times, so let me get your opinion on this guy. So Floyd Mayweather says he is TBE, the best ever is what he says, is what it stands for. And he rolled off reasons why he's the best ever. He said why he's better than Ali, whether he's better than you. He said none of these guys have beaten the number of champions I've beaten. I'm undefeated. I'm da-da-da-da-da. And then they asked him to give his Mount Rushmore of great fighters. He said Floyd Mayweather, Pernell Whitaker, Roberto Duran, Larry Holmes, and Aaron Pryor. There was no mention of Sugar Ray Leonard. So my question is, your thoughts on Floyd Mayweather? Is he, in his opinion, he says he's the best ever. Is he the best ever?
Okay, I got to call Floyd. He didn't include me at all.
He did. He said Floyd would be his number one, then Pernell Whitaker. He says then Roberto Duran. He said you look at the way he punched, the way he went up in divisions. Larry Holmes and Aaron Pryor. Those were his top 5 of all time.
Okay. Well, I don't hear that again. Well, people ask me. I mean, there's not a day that goes by. People say, "Hey, man, you think you could beat Floyd Mayweather?" No, what? I'm gonna say yes. And it's like hypothetically, if you guys were fighting this and that, I don't know if there's any other way that we can fight each other. I'll fight him. I'm only 64, Brian.
Right. we talked about it a little bit at the top, but what do you think about Roy Jones and Mike Tyson fight?
You know, people right off the bat they say Mike Tyson, and because I mean both of these guys are my friends, it's hard to be biased. But it's all going to depend on who gets into that ring as Mike Tyson or Roy Jones. I guarantee you, and you'll see it in the very first round. The minute that bell rings, we will find out who it is. I mean, can Roy take Tyson's punch? That's only Roy can answer that question. Does hand speed make a difference? Absolutely. You beat hand speed and foot speed. You see, I'm dancing around this whole thing.
You give it positives for both guys. I see what you're doing, Ray.
I'll be there. I'll be there, or I'll watch it on TV. I think when is the fight? Is it November?
In November. In November. Yeah. In November. Let's talk about your foundation. And you're on this mission to fight diabetes. Tell me why in your foundation.
You know, we've had foundation for 11 years, and my wife and I. It's just about giving back. It's about reciprocating. We've been raising awareness, raising funds, partnered up with Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. It's all about giving back, Brian. It really, really is. You know, I made such an impact in the ring, a huge impact in the ring. but I want to make even a larger impact outside the ring by helping others, particularly kids, our children. And we, together, it takes a team, we will eventually knock out diabetes.
That's great. That's fantastic. One of the things I love that you do, Ray, is on social media, especially in this pandemic. Hey, listen, a lot of us couldn't go to the gym. So we had to work out in our garage and do whatever we could do to stay in shape. And now that some of the gyms are open, you can go in. But I love the social media posts that you would put on there and the workout. I like them. I used them this summer. Tell me, when did you start doing that? And do you enjoy doing that?
I absolutely love. That's home for me. You may realize I'm a little vain. I feel good and look good. And the workout, especially on the bags and everything, and give them tips about how to throw a jab or right hand or a shoe shine. I absolutely love that because it's all about living your life to the fullest. It's all about health. It's all about being focused, being confident. All these things is a part of boxing. I love it. Let me see your jab. Let me see your jab.
Step into that thing. Yeah, turn the hand, man.
Why are you turning your head?
Turn them knuckles, man.
You try to look pretty, man.
Hey, just in case something coming back. Something coming back at me, you know what I mean?
There you go.
Okay. Sugar Ray, for people who watch the show, we allow them to submit questions. I mean, they came flooding in for Sugar Ray Leonard. So let's get to a few of them. We'll start from Twitter. This one from Robert. He asks, what do you think the Hagler versus Leonard outcome would have been if the fight was 15 rounds?
If the fight was 15 rounds? A decision?
Four.
The thing about it, that was my part of my negotiations, because they say you want to go 12 rounds, or no, they say 15 rounds. We said, well, we can go 12 rounds too. So he was compensated to accept 15 rounds because they didn't think I can go 10 rounds or 5 rounds. The whole thing in a nutshell was that no one thought I had a chance to go 2-3 rounds with Hagler. And so why not accept? From a business perspective, he did the right thing.
Mm-hmm. This one from Facebook, it says, why didn't you fight Wilfred Benitez again?
I don't know. That's a good question, but I don't know. I just want to fight. So I didn't say, I want to fight that guy. No, I want to fight this guy. You lay him up, just put him up there, and let me know. Say, Ray, you fighting Joe Smo, you fighting Donnie Lalonde, you fighting Roberto Duran. That's all I care about. I trained, got in shape, and my manager told me I'm fighting this guy.
This one from Twitter from Chris. He says, why didn't the rematch happen with Hagler?
Hagler didn't want a rematch. Hagler, and again, I consider Hagler a friend, although we don't call each other on our birthday. No. Hagler was one, if not the best middleweight champions ever. But I think it was hard for him to accept the fact that, however you look at it, I got the decision. It's like it's like Joe Frazier. It's like Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali. They kind of rub each other. Well, Joe didn't feel comfortable around Ali. It's just personalities, man. That's all it is. It's just personalities.
This one from Facebook, it says, if you were fighting in 2020, would you circumvent politics and fight everyone?
Will I do what?
Circumvent the politics of boxing and fight everyone.
That's what I thought I did. It wasn't. In fact, I was an independent contractor. I did my own thing. Yeah.
This one comes from, let's see, Twitter. Says, who is the best you fought? Boxer and just straight up fighter?
The best. Tommy Hearns had every tool. Tommy had a jab that felt like a right hand, a power punch. Tommy had a hook that could knock your block off. Tommy Hearns had a body shot that could just make you go to the bathroom. Tommy Hearns, with his height and his reach, he was a freak of nature. Tommy.
This one from Twitter. Would you have done anything differently or any regrets?
That I'm asked that question not all the time, but seldom. No, you know what? I wouldn't change anything. You know, naturally, I want to say I want to take back the fight with Hector Camacho, take back the fight with the second Tommy Hearns fight. Yeah, I could say that and feel worse. But you know, I am who I am because of what I've experienced. You know what I mean, Brian? Those things make me who I am today. Those mistakes, regrets, whatever, makes me who I am. So no.
This one from Twitter. It says, how did Duran's power compare to the likes of Hearns and Hagler?
Duran tried to punch through you. As short as as small as he was, because he wasn't a big guy. He just gained a couple pounds. Tommy Hearns, you couldn't appreciate his power because he would knock most guys out. Hagler would just break you down. Hagler would just break you down. Hagler, he was ambidextrous. Could fight both ways, both hands. I mean, he was an amazing guy. I really don't think he got the credit he deserved, Hagler. But I've experienced what he was made of.
And this last one from Twitter, who was the tougher fight, Hagler or Hearns?
Internal revenue.
Well, you got paid. Hey, look, you got paid on both those fights. I got you, my brother. I got you. Okay, Sugar Ray Leonard. It is time for the final segment of this show. We call it The Last Stand. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You just give me the first thing that comes to your mind, Ray. You ready?
Yep.
In your opinion, who is the greatest fighter of all time?
Muhammad Ali.
Just about every boxing historian says Marvin Hagler won that fight. In your quiet time when no one's around, what does Sugar Ray Leonard say won that fight against him and Marvin Hagler? Who won?
I did.
Who is on the Sugar Ray Leonard Mount Rushmore of fighters?
Mayweather.
And who else? You have four of them. Mayweather, who else?
Oh, you can't do that to me.
Greatest fighters of all time.
Of all time?
Yes. Greatest fighters of all time. Your Mount Rushmore fighters.
Okay. All right, so Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis.
One more.
And Floyd Mayweather.
All right. How about that? Look at you. I like it.
I'm good with marketing.
I think we asked this one, but who was the toughest opponent you ever faced in the ring?
Tommy Hearns.
Okay. And then last but not least, Sugar Ray, in your opinion, who is the closest thing to Sugar Ray Leonard fighting right now?
Who is the closest thing? The fighter? What fighter is?
Right now. What fighter right now is the closest thing to Sugar Ray Leonard?
As far as style, as far as?
Whatever you say, when you look at it, you look at that fight, you say, Man, that guy's like a mini Sugar Ray Leonard.
Earl Spencer's is really an eye-opener.
That's great. And before we wrap this up, how old were you when you looked at Ray Robinson and you said, you know what, I think I'm going to take Sugar Ray as my name? When did that come about?
That came actually. What good question. It came actually 1972. So when I lost in the quarterfinals of the Olympic trials, and I was in the back crying. I cried a lot. I was in the back crying, and the coach came back there. Sergeant Tom Johnson said, "Hey, Sugar Man, you're gonna be okay for 1976 Olympics," and he was right.
Wow.
Kept the name Sugar Ray.
Wow, that's great. Ray, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you doing this. I know I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and it's always good to see you and talk boxing with you.
Brian, I feel the same way. It's mutual, man. But throw a jab again.
How about that? How about that?
What are you doing with your mouth?
I was trying to look pretty, man. But this Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Leonard, he's just. That's the great Sugar Ray Leonard. Folks, that's what we do on The Last Stand. We bring you the biggest names in sports and entertainment, just like Ray Leonard. Ray, thank you very much.
Love you, man. Thanks, Ray.
And we'll see you next week, everyone.